Hello, Anthony.
Hey, Steve. I have to speak a little bit quietly because there's someone else still sleeping.
Okay.
Let me just.
That's
I'll just
fine.
Enlarge the screen again. View full screen. There, cool. So it's a bit dark because it's an hour earlier, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, let me just put the light on. Better.
Hi, Lisbeth.
Hi, Steve. And hi, Anthony.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Have you guys met before?
No,
No,
but I've seen.
I saw the video last
Yeah.
night.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw your one too.
Okay.
I like your background, Steve. That's really cool.
Well, it's nothing like the room that's here.
Oh, okay.
The backgrounds can hide anything.
It's not really a room then. It's another illusion.
Yeah. So let's see if I can get all three of us. For some reason, it's not showing me, but that's okay. So you both, it looks like you both can hear.
But Steve, you're the one that's not really there anyway. So
Yes. How about that? So there was a walk this morning here, and there was no one walking. There was just walking. And seeing somehow the walking. There's no separate one somehow. There's just oneness, being one for no one, for nobody. And the walking and everything else that oneness does without a doer is for nobody. Somehow, there's just no one and nobody. And yet, something's happening. Life is lifing. Birds are birding. Squirrels are squirreling. Trees are treeing. And somehow it's all one. And somehow it's everything. Everything being one, and one being everything. Apparently, it's just doing what it does for no reason, and yet it keeps doing. with no doer? How can there be doing with no doer? Or seeing with no seer? Or walking with no walker? Or swimming with no swimmer? Somehow there's swimming and there's no swimmer. By the way, that's something that this does frequently. And it doesn't matter what the activity is. There's no one, there's no separate one doing it. It's just it's like walking is doing the walking, and seeing is doing the seeing, and swimming is doing the swimming. And there's just no one. There's no one, and there's one. There's the one that's everything, but there's no one there. And it's that one it's that one that's everything. And it's that separate one that likes to think it's doing what it does. The separate one has no experience of the one. The separate one, even though it's also part of oneness, it can't see that. It would like to think it can know it, and makes great efforts in attempting to know oneness, but that separate one, that separate one self, even though it's also oneness, can't see that. You can spend a lifetime looking and following up on what other separate ones are saying about oneness, but none of the separate ones can see the oneness that they are attempting to talk about. Because there's a lot of talk about oneness. It's not oneness talking. It's a separate one wishing, perhaps. And for that separate one, there can be a change, an energetic change. Some people call it a falling away. if the energy or the resonance of the energy is doing it, it can happen. And once it does, once there is no longer a separate one, then oneness is seeing. It's really very simple. Once oneness is seeing, then it's seeing everything that the separate one was apparently looking for and never saw. So there's a lot to be said for walking or swimming or just sitting and watching birds do birding. When oneness is doing the seeing. So how about that one?
That's a great intro. Very nice.
So Lisbeth, have you been to the woods lately?
Yes, this morning actually.
Oh,
This one was walking.
okay. So how is that walking?
It was really, really nice. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. But there was still me walking.
Yes, that does happen. It's
Mhm.
just what's happening
Mhm.
until it's not happening. So were the woods busy?
No, it was rather quiet actually, and
Uh-huh.
I went with my friend Stan, and
Okay.
yeah, we encountered few birds actually really close that just wouldn't move. They were just sitting on the pathway, and yeah, it was really nice.
They were comfortable.
They were very comfortable, and ducks as well.
So apparently birds don't have a me. It appears that humans are the only ones with me's,
Mhm.
which some people explain in terms of human intelligence. That humans, because of their brain size and what intelligence appears to increase with brain size, there was an ability to create me's. And in that process, humanity became separate from everything. And And humanity is currently, whether it knows it or not, looking for a way to become connected somehow, not realizing that everyone is already connected to everything. That everyone is already oneness with everything. It's just not seen somehow. Until it is. Until something snaps, something changes, and then what's not there is suddenly there. With no effort involved. With just energy and its way doing what it does.
Do you mean that that there appears to be an evolution in the mass consciousness of humanity right now? Looking and searching, or?
Well, some people talk about that as a story, as an explanation. And at the same time, energy, which is beyond explanation or prediction, does what it does. It doesn't the energy of everything that is infinite, unchangeable and changeable. It doesn't need any kind of explanation to do what it does. It just is. And that's at some moments or at some for no reason, the energy can change. Some people talk about the me as contracted energy. They use that term, contracted energy. That's another story, because the energy, whatever is the energy is beyond explanation anyway. So even the word energy is not accurate. It's not useful. It's just another word for what is, oneness, wholeness, absolute, all the words that are thrown at it that don't do it. They don't come close. It's just a way of talking about it, talking about something that's beyond words. And yet, at some time or at some mm, things somehow will change. And the me will no longer be there.
So
And-
is the,
Yes.
no, go ahead. Like,
Well, there's been talk about how to encourage, or how to increase the possibility of the me disappearing or falling away. And it's beyond even that explanation, or even the encouragement to have a certain environment, or a certain setting, or a certain kind of gathering. And there are things that seem to help, like the retreats. Sometimes there seems to be a kind of exhaustion apparent in the long retreats that have 3 or 4 meetings a day, something like that. There seems to be a kind of response to that kind of activity, where it may be that the me gets exhausted and may not be as present as it usually is, or just being in an environment where this is being spoken about and yet it all comes down to what the apparent energy does somehow. So that resonance of energy has nothing to do with intellectual explanation. It could come down to rolling over in the bed from one side of your body to the other, or getting up out of a chair It could be just any activity, for no apparent reason, the me just won't be there.
Steve, the me is the me illusion of me as much the energy being the illusion as the energy is being everything else?
Yes, it's all the same energy,
Yeah.
or whatever word you'd like to give it. It's all the same unnameable, nameless totality or
Like
no
when you say oneness is walking, oneness is swimming,
right?
oneness is illusioning.
Yes,
Same.
yes,
And so when I've often heard it said that actually nothing is happening.
yes.
Can you speak? Can you speak on that one? Okay, because energy is swimming,
Yes,
but nothing's happening.
yes.
Okay, maybe just speak on that one.
Well, everything is nothing. Nothing is everything.
Right.
Everything includes nothing. Another way of saying nothing is no thing, no one,
Right. Okay.
no one. It's
Right.
there's no separation.
Separation. Yeah.
All the me knows is separation. All it knows is what it thinks it knows. It thinks it knows separation.
Mm.
It may think it knows connection. It may think it has experience with oneness or wholeness, but it's all what it thinks it knows.
Mm.
It thinks it's the knower. Oneness is oneness without a separate knower. Oneness sees and knows and does without a knower, a seer, or a doer. Here, this has bills to pay, and it pays its bills on time. it has activities that the oneness has activities that it does without a doer. So there's no bill payer, there's no car driver, there's no swimmer, there's no walker, there's no landscaper, there's no watering the plants, there's no waterer. It's all this things get done, and there's no one separate doer. There's only the doing. There's no one doing it. There's only the seeing. There's no one seeing it. The seeing is seeing. The seeing is seeing oneness. Oneness is seeing the seeing oneness. It's all oneness. It's all infinity. It's all the absolute without a separate identity or a separate one or a separate person or a separate a separate seer, and it's just effortless. It just is, and it just does, and it just sees without effort. Walking requires some muscular effort. And at the same time, the body can feel the sensation of walking. The muscles feel a certain way, the feet feel a certain way. And at the same time, it's effortless. Even though it takes what it takes to walk, like to hike up a hill, the body feels what it feels. It may sweat a little bit, whatever's required. And at the same time, it's effortless. There's no one hiking. It's just hiking. Hiking is hiking. Some people have talked about this apparent moment when it's seen. Maybe Zen practitioners have talked about a moment when it's seen that it's walking doing the walking. There's no one doing the walking, it's just the walking, or the path is doing the walking. The path is walking the walking. But there's no one there.
one of the things that I get, I suppose that's just the perception of from the me's perception, in trying to conceptually understand oneness would imply to me that there's no separate objects, but
The objects are all oneness.
yeah, but there's still different objects. Like
It's
when
all-
you go swimming, there's a swimming pool, and then there's the dot, for example, the diving board.
Yeah,
There's two. There is the appearance of two things, which there is still seen. So otherwise, you wouldn't land in the water. If you go into the water, you know, there's a differentiation that still happens between the water and the surrounding concrete or whatever. So I think it's just the word separation. There's obviously millions and an infinite number of different objects that is still seen by no one. Is
yes.
right. So in that seeing the different objects in my brain, I still go, right, there's still separation. There's separation between the concrete and the water. And I just can't, it's so hard to, when you hear the word oneness, you think, oh, well, there's no separation. How can you see two different objects that are one thing, or not even? Yeah, I don't know.
It's
I'll stop.
again, it is beyond explanation.
Mm.
And when it's seen, again, right now, this is looking out windows. This is an office with 3 walls of windows. It's looking out on the neighborhood, and there are a lot of different houses and trees and sky and clouds and palm trees and lemon tree, and there's a plane up here, and it appears to be a bunch of different things, and it also appears to be one. Everything is one. The differentiation is oneness. The variability is oneness. It's just the differentiation is just oneness differentiating itself as oneness. And it goes on to the to the apparent limit or infiniteness of the universe, or the megaverse, or whatever words you choose to express. There's variety and it's all it's all in its variety, and everything and all of its variety is all oneness. So each little bit of oneness in its way is oneness. So the me likes to categorize everything. It's got to. It's got to understand things in its way, in its way of understanding. This oneness just doesn't compute. Just like quantum mechanics doesn't compute. Physics is just an attempt at explaining the unexplainable. And oneness has no problem with being variable, with being endlessly expressed in endless different ways. There's no problem. It's just wonderfully, effortlessly expressing oneness, is endlessly expressing oneness in millions or in infinite different ways. And it's still, in a sense, it's still the same oneness. Yeah. It's just what is. It's just the way it is.
I suppose it all hinges, like, it really does all hinge on that, or the seeing of that. I guess it all really does hinge on the me. Like, the me can't explain everything. It's just ridiculous, and it sees everything, I suppose, as separate until it's not there. And then, like you've said and others have said, when that me's not there, there's just everything left. But while the me's there, it's the cause of the trying to explain and the seeing everything is separate. But if you're not there, really, what could you identify as being separate from yourself if you weren't there? You'd be like, I heard one person say once that they were sitting somewhere, and then all of a sudden they couldn't tell what was me and what they were seeing. There was no differentiating. It was just, I didn't know what was me and what was everything else. There was just, so you were lost in, there's just, you're not there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you get a little tiny understanding of that, which means nothing, but yeah.
Yes, that's what's seen when there's no me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a problem for the me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a problem for everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that me is it's a pattern of some kind. It created itself in the beginning. When it started, it created itself. And it got lost in itself. Now it's interested in something else besides itself. And at the same time, it's still itself.
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah.
itself. Now it's become a seeker of some kind for something else. Not realizing, again, that it's already not there, never was there, never will be there. And at the same time, it finds itself so utterly believable and real that it cannot conceive of no me. It may try, and it may have, some ideas that are entertaining. And at the same time, it's all or nothing. With the me, there's no partial me.
Yeah.
It's either me or not. That's just the nature of the me.
Yeah. I think I read the other day a quote which said, working on getting rid of the me is the illusion, is part of the illusion. It's still part of the illusion. It doesn't matter what you do, or
Yes.
it's just the way it is.
Yes. And then if the me is gone, if the me is really gone, it's done.
Yeah.
It doesn't come back. And then what's seen really what's seen is, even though it's been talked about for ages, what's seen is in a sense, it's unexpected, even though there's no one there to expect anything. Everything that the me has heard about life after it all that information doesn't compare. It doesn't fit. It's not the same as everything without it.
It's amazing.
All the stuff that's been talked, all the speakers that talk, is still words until you get to the place of until there are no longer any words. The me is surrounded by words until there are no longer any words. Really, where things are apparently some way. That's another word. But if you get to the point where there's no more words, you're just seeing. It's not the same as what's been expressed. It's delightfully or magnificently or back with words again. It's hugely or inexpressibly the way it is. The words just don't. The most wonderful and meditative and uplifting. These are all words that affect the me. Until there's no me, and then there's really no need for words anymore.
Yeah.
And then that's what is. And it's just fine. It's not what the me expected with all the words that it heard. And at the same time, it's the same as things were before in the layout of everything, the positioning and the trees don't move really that much. Houses don't move. So everything is in the place that it was forever. And yet it's different. It is different. It's the same and it's different.
Yeah, never heard that.
So the speakers keep speaking because they have something that's seen that is missing in the lives of me's, and they're forced to use words because that's the way language works. It might work better if fingers were just snapped.
Yeah.
Or noises, or that's one reason why there's this video stuff going on here. It's a nonverbal resonance of some kind that brings up these videos. It just somehow that just came up, or different videos come up. It's somehow beyond words, yet it somehow seems to resonate. So all the speaking and the meeting and videos and all that is just an attempt at communication somehow. And part of the story here was with the retreats and all the meetings during the retreats. The words were just not even listened to. It became it became not the words, it became something behind the words. The listening, or the one thing Steve said during the retreat was, I just want to listen to the words. And it wasn't the words that were being listened to, it was somehow what went along with them, or what was behind them, or what was in the air. So very, very little is remembered, actually, from those retreats. They all just kind of, one meeting rolled into the next, and even though there were different words being used, different stories being told or whatever, it was the being there, just being there, and sort of resonating. It seemed to be what was really going on. There's something going on when this is talked about that is not really, it's not really being talked. It's somehow there. It's just there. So
Can you say something also? That was really great. On how, on time, can you just talk on time, like how from there it's seen that there is no time, when you can say at the same time, this went for a walk this morning, but there's no time. So if there's no time, then in that, obviously nothing could happen, because for something to happen requires time. Anyway, I'll stop there.
yeah, every time this looks out the window, even I use the word time, or this used the word time then. So when this looks out the window, looks back to the computer, looks out the window, looks that way, looks in the backyard. Every time it looks back, every time it just changes vision, or even if it's continuing to look at something, like there's a funny looking flag over there. It's always just seeing. It's always just seeing. It's not seeing. It's not seeing in sense of time. I better get a drink of something here.
Is it endlessly and infinitely new and fresh?
It's always new. Every look. Yes, every time the head moves, or the eyes blink, or changing from plant landscape to the sky, back to the plants, over to that part of the neighborhood, over here. Every movement of the head is new. I'm looking at, or this is looking at a lemon tree out there that we use all the time. And it's the same old lemon tree. There's fewer lemons on it. In fact, this is a form of lemonade. And every time the tree is seen, it's new, even though it's changed, even though there are a few leaves over here, some yellow leaves over there. The lemons are smaller now because they've all been eaten. And you know, it's been there for years. It's brand new. Every time, like, I'll look up, this will look up, and that's a brand new lemon tree. It's the same old tree, but it looks brand new.
Amazing.
The same old house across the street, it looks brand new. It's seen. It is seen as new. It's almost like it wasn't there and then it's there also. If you don't see it, it's not there. If you see it, oh, it's there. There's not even a sense of what can be expected. Oh, the house has always been that way. It'll always be that way. But there's a sense, this apparentness that it's the first time I've seen it. And it's the first time this has seen it, and it may have been seen 100 times in one day. Each time, first time. It's the first time.
Wow.
Damn, it's the first time. And that place hasn't moved. Been there. It's been there for as long as this has been here. Or in this case, like 7 years or something like that. There's some time, you know, throw some time in there. 7 years. And it's still like the first time. And it's not the first time in the sense of it being totally brand new experience. It's recognized. And at the same time, it's new. In that recognition, it's new. And it's fine. So we're getting a little bit beyond the time. The talk about time, but in that whole little talk about the lemon tree and the house, there's no time involved in that. There is a sense that there is a sense of how long we've been talking, but also that is timeless feeling. So there can be a sense of how long an activity goes for. And at the same time, there's no time. There can be a sense of how the sun travels across the sky, you know, that so the sun is high in the sky, like that kind of reflects noontime sort of thing. It can be that kind of a, but that part of that is just a convention. And it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the sun is doing. If there's a storm coming, like California may get some rain finally, and we're expecting a storm early next week. There'll be things that will get done regarding rain. And there'll be interest in how much rain falls because there's a drought here. So we watch rainfall all the time. And at the same time, even though the storm is supposed to come at a certain time on Monday, say, at the same time, there's no time. It's just what's happening. It's what's happening, and this is part of what's happening. This is what's happening. That's what's happening. This will do what it does regarding rain. It's just life, or everything doing everything.
So I guess the word, from the me perspective, the word infinite just means time going on and on and on and on forever. But from your perspective, infinite wouldn't mean that, right? Or what would it mean? So for me, from the me perspective, it seems like it's still a description of time, just a really long time.
Well, yeah. Infinite can also mean, in a way, timeless.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's described as no beginning and no end.
Yeah.
So time is another me invention that's useful. It's useful for the me. In its desperation to understand everything. Here, it's just at times it's convention. But even in the middle of the convention, like the rainstorm coming or driving somewhere, or even though there's a convention of time, it's still all timeless.
Mm.
It's still all timeless. It's just like that lemon tree. Even though that tree's been there for maybe 30 years, and it changed a little bit around the edges, it still has a sense of newness, or first time it's been seen, every time it's seen.
Wow.
It's like an ever-present moment, or
Mm. Mm.
It's like it's like no moment. There is no moment. It's there. It's seen. It's looking at the sky, and it's seen again. It's there. New.
Mm. Mm.
It's almost as if it's being created.
Yeah, yeah.
Each
Yeah,
time
yeah.
it's seen.
Mm. Mm.
It's apparently, again, it's that word apparent. It's apparently there,
Mm.
and yet it's not.
There's something about that and I can't really, no one understands it apparently, but there's an experiment that was done in science. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's called the can't remember the name of it, but where they have a screen set up, and they shoot, and the screen has got do it like that. The screen has got
it's a double slit
Yeah.
experiment.
Yeah.
That's the classical quantum
Yeah.
mechanics.
Yeah, and so when the light's being shot through it and it's not being observed, the light appears on the back of it as lines, and then when it's being observed by somebody, it appears as waves. And I don't, there's something about what you're saying that kind of in my head has a link to this, is that it's appearing only as you're seeing it. I don't know, just blowing smoke, but anyway, there's something that there's some sort of link there, that like this when you see it, it's only appearing as it's being seen, and so it's not really real, but it's real as it's seen, but only as it's seen.
Yes.
I think there was one scientist, actually, you probably know him, maybe you know him online, I've forgotten his name as well, and he kind of likened this reality to a what do you call it, when they put the goggles on and
Virtual.
Yeah, and he said, you see the moon and you think it's there, but when you look away, it's actually not there. It's only there when you look at. Anyway, there's something about what you're saying about time.
Yeah.
And the seeing of it that unexplainable, obviously, but it has some sort of, there's something in my brain that's linking the two together as being real and not real at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it seems like sometimes science science is able to get its hand around something briefly,
Yeah.
and it's having a real hard time getting around things on the microscopic level.
Yeah.
So it's able to hint at some of the stuff that's being talked about here scientifically,
Mm.
and at the same time, it's limited. It's
Yeah.
limited because what we're talking about is limited also by words,
Yeah.
and so science is also limited by words until some non-dual speaker becomes a physicist. Perhaps that would be
That'd be really
an
interesting.
interesting combination. They're
Yeah.
out there. They're out there. There's when quantum mechanics was first developed, a number of the scientists became mystics. Not Einstein, unfortunately. He actually had a lot to do with the foundational work for quantum mechanics, but he couldn't accept the fact of quantum entanglement. It seemed to him that God wouldn't be rolling the dice. He had some problem with that. So he never became a mystic in that sense. But some of the other people did, like Niels Bohr and others. The problem with mysticism is it's not accepted scientifically. So it's probably a career burner.
Yeah. I think there was a while ago I was watching one of the I think it's the leading scientist on I forget what his name is, but I just did it for a laugh because I like just watching. They pull down these big blackboards that take up a whole wall and all these formulas, and I can't understand absolutely. And in fact, I remember I didn't understand one sentence in this whole 20-minute talk. Not one sentence made sense to me, but still there was a fascination on it. But what I did understand was at the end, it was absolutely concluded that and proven formula-wise and everything else like that, that time doesn't exist. That's the latest confirmed conclusion. Absolutely, that time doesn't exist, but I think he said something like it borrows its isness from something else, but it can't exist, is what he said. Yeah, so I just like that. And it's funny how it lines up. It you know, with everything you say and yeah, so there's an interesting link between science is always kind of catching up a little bit to what's been said here. It's just it doesn't mean anything. Just find it interesting. That's all.
Yeah. Well, We'll see who's going to end up being the first non-dualist to become a physicist.
Might be a new career move for you, Steve.
Well, it may be Anthony or Lisbeth.
Actually, there was a I don't know if you've seen it. Came out a few years ago. A video on time and space and all that sort of thing, where they did an animation, a fast forwarding of the universe as we know it, speeding up. They just took time and then just sped it up, being observed from the planet point of view. And I think 6 billion years, the sun's got something like 6 billion years of light left, and then it implodes into a nuclear, all that sort of stuff. And obviously then there's no more humans around at that point, for sure, because the planet just becomes a cold black ice thing, and then so on and so on and so on. And they just accelerated this time frame, I don't know, into how many hundreds of billions of years, and it just ended up resulting in nothing. And I'd just like to know what your comments are on that that whole scenario.
It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories out there.
Yeah.
At this point, astronomy and actually that would be cosmology doesn't really factor much into what's going on here, and at the same time it's definitely what is. It's everything. It's infinite. It's definitely what's being talked about.
I even heard one person, I think it was Paul Summers Morgan, maybe a Paul Morgan Summers, and he was doing an interview. I think the interview was on the discarded compass. It was talking about the Big Bang or something like that. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said this didn't need a Big Bang. And I think he was saying it didn't really happen, so to speak. It's like, because it's not needed. You'd have to listen to that particular interview, but I thought that was also interesting too. Just like everything comes back down to the perspective of a me.
Yes.
It's just, it's just always comes down to that.
Yes, there is a real desperation to understand.
Yeah.
Because there's not a connection. There's a separation from everything, in a sense. In a sense that everything the word answer is not a choice word, but in a sense that everything answers everything.
Yeah.
Even though there's no one listening for an answer. No one cares about an answer when there's no one.
Yeah.
It's the no one.
Yeah.
It's the no one that that can happen. And then
yeah.
it's the end of questioning, actually.
Yeah.
It's the end of
Yes.
questioning, aside from an interest in dabbling in questions of physics or cosmology. It's not a desperate need like the me has.
Yeah.
It's just, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. That doesn't change anything, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so all this talking is just a chance. It's just a chance to resonate with what is apparently energy. It's everything. It's just an opportunity or a gathering to resonate. But even that, it's apparent who's resonating with who, who's resonating with what. But there is something possibly called energy doing something possibly called resonating that somehow might change the energy so that there's no me. How about that for?
Yeah.
That's so far away from words.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet that's what this is all about. Somehow something happens so far away from words that it can not be understood or communicated properly. And yet the effort is made and the interest is there. And that also is, that interest is the infinite. The interest is the energy. So it's the infinite that created the me in the first place. It's the infinite energy that is interested in talking this way, in just talking, even though talking is totally inadequate.
It can only be talked about in paradoxes.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is being talked about, and something is apparently happening. So it'll continue being talked about by whoever for whatever time. And at the same time, even though there's no one, it is it continues to be done. no reason really. It just continues to be done.
Mm.
So it's all it's all oneness, or lack of a better word, doing the me, doing oneness, doing speaking, doing videos, being other speakers, being other guests. It's all oneness,
Mm.
doing all of it, each aspect of it. It's all oneness. So you guys are already oneness, doing oneness. Beyond explanation.
Mm.
Wow. That's where the word wow comes from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, shall we do more of these?
Yeah. I'm good.
Okay. This is still looking for more guests.
Mhm.
And it's interesting right now, we seem to be at almost the extent of our time zones. Like right now, Elizabeth is what, 10 o'clock or 10:30?
Yeah, we shifted on winter time here last week, and it's 9:30 now.
Oh, okay, good. Then you got an extra hour.
Yeah.
And we're going to shift Sunday. Maybe that'll give Anthony an extra hour. Maybe you won't have to start till 7. We'll see how
Sure.
that works out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm good with 6. Any earlier might be a bit of a. I'd have even less to say, which would probably be a great thing. But
Okay.
Elizabeth's going, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
perfectly fine you doing all the talking.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, 6 o'clock in the morning is probably about as, it's a good time for me.
okay.
Whatever works for others. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll just say as a closing comment, the amount of questions or the amount of talking has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Mm.
It happens to quiet people. It happens to talkative people. It just happens when it happens.
Mm.
Okay, so I'll let you know what's coming up.
Cool.
And
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
thank you for your input, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We'll do some more.
All right.
So good night and good day.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.